In this clip, we're going to take a look at trying to get our solve closer to the origin of our scene. It'll help us inside of Maya as well as just inside of Nuke not to have the overall solve all the way out over here. The reason it is out over there is because there's also a camera that exists in here, and it's kind of just trying to even out the space between the camera and the face. And to us, that's not really that important. We would prefer to have the face towards the origin. Now we could try to move the face over. Notice there are handles over here. There are also, if we go over here under scene, translation and rotation controls that can help us move this over. However, one of the easy things we can do to get this to at least pop over here and allow us to maybe rotate it into place a little bit is we can actually select a point here and have that point move to the origin. So again, we can only select the points in a 2D view. And I'm just going to maybe grab one of these points towards the bottom of the chin. So let's go back into the 3D view. And we can try to get a rough idea of where that point is. We can see, oops, I thought it was over there. It's actually there. That's not perfect, but it'll do the trick. So we'll go ahead now, and inside of the 2D view, we can right click on this point, come over to ground plane, and we're just going to say we're going to set this to the origin. Select that. Jump back to our 3D view, and you'll see that it's now popped over to the origin, and it's going to be that much easier for us to get this into place. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little bit of space here, and I don't need to have that point selected anymore. I can deselect there. So now I can shift this over, and it will be a little bit slow. Notice as I'm pulling on that handle, it is lagging just a little bit. Actually, it wasn't really moving at all. There it goes. Now it's starting to shift a little bit. So that can be a little bit frustrating, but if you're a little patient, you can go ahead and get it moved into position. I can also hold Control to turn on the rotation axes, and that can help me kind of rotate this to face front a little bit more. Just going to give that just a moment to catch up. So let's see a little bit more. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'll try to get it lined up a little bit closer inside of Maya, but whatever we can do here will just help. So it's getting a little better. It looks like it's tilted off to the side a little bit. Let's see, the best axes for that, based on the angle it's tilted, might actually be the Z over here. So there we go. That doesn't look too terrible. We'll kind of shift that over a bit. Be a little bit more. That looks pretty good. And I can also push it up in the Y just a tiny little bit. It's a little tough to see the Y-axis. I'll have to zoom in a bit, but just to get it up off the ground. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe shift forward a tiny bit more. And again, you could always make the adjustments here as well. Notice that all of these axes have been changing. I just find it a little bit easier, since we're not trying to be exact anyway, to make all the adjustments here in the viewport. And again, you can spend some time try to get it, a little bit more forward facing, but I'd say this is pretty close. Now, the other thing I'm going to want to adjust is my scene scale. This is actually pretty tiny at the moment. It's kind of hard to tell, but it doesn't really calculate the same way Maya does. Nuke definitely runs on the smaller side. So I'm going to try upping my uniform scale over here to 10. Hit enter, and you can see that's gone ahead and scaled it up for me, and I think that's going to work much better. Now we can go ahead and adjust the scale in Maya as necessary as well. However, in Nuke it's not as important. Nuke does not have physically accurate renderers unless you're using a RenderMan plugin, which unfortunately I don't have. But if you're just using the regular Nuke renderer, it's not physically accurate. The scale is not going to be as important. Now that it is larger, I can tell it is still a little bit off axis. So I can go ahead and try to line that up. However, if I want to kind of center out these axes here once again, I can do the same trick as before. I can come over here, grab any point. Okay, this time I selected one right about there. So let's go back to 2D, right click, and we'll say we're going to set that to the origin. Give that just a moment to update. Come back to the 3D view. You can see it's re-straightened it out for me. Let's go ahead and deselect that point again. And now we'll go ahead and just shift this a little bit again. Just raise that up a tiny bit. All right, maybe a tiny bit more. Okay, and I'd say more or less we're okay. All right. So I think this looks good. All that's left to do is to get ready for the export. So we'll go ahead and end here at this clip, and in the next clip we'll take a look at how we can export this out into something that'll be workable, something we can actually have a node for inside of Nuke, nodes in our 3D space, separate out point cloud from the camera, as well as obviously have that camera data to look at, because so far we don't really have any way to visualize it. So see you guys in the next clip.